Okay, in this video, we're going to go over the last method of solving systems of equation, and that is multiplication. Now, this one is a little bit more difficult, so the goal is to still eliminate one of your variables, so just like addition and subtraction, but your variables aren't going to line up like they do in addition and subtraction. So you're not going to have the exact same or opposites. So because of that, this is a last resort method. Okay, so let's go through some examples. So as you can see here, I've got a 2x minus y equals 6 and 3x plus 4y equals negative 2. None of my variables are the exact same or opposite. So in that case, what we are going to do is we are going to multiply one or both equations to get something that would either be the exact same or the opposite. Now, there are so many different things that you can multiply by to get something that one of your variables will then eventually cancel out. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways how to do this. So first way is you just look at the leading coefficient of your x values, and you will multiply the top one by what the bottom coefficient is. So I would multiply this one by 3. And then the bottom, you'll multiply the bottom by what the top coefficient is. So that's 2. And then you'll go through and you'll distribute this. Now you have to distribute it to everything. So that makes 6x minus 3y equals 18. And 6x plus 8y equals negative 4. Now I've got the exact same. So when you have the exact same, then you'll subtract. So now we're just doing the method that we did in the last video. So I'll subtract these so that these cancel out. Negative 3 minus 8 is negative 11y equals 18 minus negative 4 is 22. So then when I divide by negative 11, I get y equals negative 2. Now, when I go to plug this back in, I can plug it into either one of my originals or either one of these that I've multiplied. It's up to you. So I'm just going to pick this top one up here. No particular reason. So 2x minus negative 2 equals 6. So those two negatives are going to make a positive, which means I would subtract 2 to both sides. And then divide by 2. So x equals 2. So then my answer, again, you're still writing these as a point, is 2, negative 2. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to show you a little bit different way how to do it. So we're still looking at these first leading coefficients. But in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply one of them by a negative leading coefficient, because when you do that, then you'll be able to add instead of subtract. And remember, we make less errors when we add. So I'm going to multiply the top one by 6, because that's what the bottom one is, and the bottom by negative 4. So see how I changed that to a negative instead of a positive? So 6 times 4 is 24x, plus 6 times 7 is 42y, equals 6 times 6 is 36. Then negative 24x minus 20y equals negative 80. So now these are opposite, so I get to add. So those are going to cancel. 42 plus negative 20 is 22y, equals 36 plus a negative 80 is negative 44. Divide by 22, and y equals negative 2. Now I'm going to plug that in again to any one of my equations. I'm just going to plug it into the top one. So 4x plus 7 times negative 2 equals 6. So 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Then I'm going to add that 14 to both sides. Oops. And then divide by 4. So x equals 5. So 5, negative 2. Okay. Now for this last one, I'm going to show you again a different way how to do it. So here, 9 and 7 are just big numbers where you're going to have some big numbers here when you're multiplying, which is completely fine. But I see this 2 and the 3, which is a lot smaller, so I'm going to have smaller equations and smaller numbers that I'm dealing with. And that might be easier for some people. So for this one, we're going to multiply them by these leading coefficients instead. So the top, I'm going to multiply by 3, and the bottom, I'm going to multiply by 2. So 9 times 3 is 27x, minus 3 times 2 is 6y, equals 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14x, plus 2 times 3 is 6y, equals 24. So again, I have opposites, so I'm going to add these. So 27 plus a negative 14 is 13x. These will cancel, and negative 24 plus 24 is 0. So when I divide by 13, anything 0 divided by anything is just 0. Then I'm going to go ahead and plug this back into any equation. I'll plug it into the top one. Now anything times 0 is just going to cancel out or be 0. So I can just divide by the -2, get that y equals 4. So my answer is 0, 4. Okay. Okay, so now our word problems, which we still have the same 4 steps that we have in the other sections. So we are going to define our variables x and y. Create your system of equations. Solve the system. Then write a sentence to answer the question at the end. Okay. Okay, so the cost of 4 notebooks and 5 pens is $20. The cost of 6 notebooks and 2 pens is $19. How much does 1 notebook cost? So let's define our variables. So we are talking about notebooks and pens, so that's our x and our y is notebook and pens. Okay, so now we need to write our equations. The cost of 4 notebooks pens is $20, and then the cost of 6 notebooks okay, so the cost of 4 notebooks, so that's 4x, and 5 pens, so plus 5y is $20. The cost of 6 notebooks and 2 pens is $19. So I'm going to take these two first coefficients and multiply by them. So 6, multiply the bottom one by 4. So that's 24x plus 30 equals 120. Then 24x plus 8y equals 76. So now I'm looking at those same leading coefficients. Those are the same, so I'm going to have to subtract. So these will cancel. 30 minus 8 is 22y. And 120 minus 76 is 44. So when I divide by 22, I'm going to get that y equals 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug that back into either one of my equations. I think we've been plugging it always into the top, so let's plug it into the bottom just so that you see how to do it. So 6x plus 2 times 2 equals 19. So 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract the 4. I did something wrong. Divided by 6. $2.5. So last thing that we need to do is write our sentence. So the cost of one notebook is $2.50, and the cost of one pen is $2. Okay, so the owners of a new restaurant have hired enough servers for 17 tables of customers, and the fire marshal has approved a limit of 56 customers in the restaurant. How many 2-seat and 4-seat tables should the owners purchase? So the question is asking us about 2-seat and 4-seat tables. So we've got 2-seat and 4-seat tables. Okay. Now here we only have one sentence, so we have to figure out what the other equation is actually going to be. So if we read this, the owners of a new restaurant have hired enough servers for 17 tables. So there's our first equation. So our tables, our 2 and our 4-seat, there can only be 17 of them. So x plus y can't be anything more than 17, which means that this right here is our second equation, which is separated by this comma. So the fire marshal has approved a limit of 56 customers. So now X is for 2-seat tables. So that means that we've got 2 customers for every X. And then 4 customers for every Y. And that can't be any more than a total of 56 customers. Now this one is actually kind of nice because looking at these leading coefficients, we have a 1 right here at this one. So that means that we only really need to multiply the top one by 2, which this will also happen. We didn't have any of these in our examples. So I would just multiply the top one. So 2x plus 2y equals 34, and not do anything to the bottom. Because now, looking at my leading coefficients, they're the exact same. So I can go ahead and subtract. And then 2 minus 4 is negative 2y. 34 minus 56 is negative 22. So divided by negative 2, y equals 11. Now we'll go ahead and plug that back into any one of your equations. I'm going to plug it back into this top one. So x plus 11 equals 17. Subtract the 11, so x equals 6. So the owners should purchase 6 two-seat tables and 11 four-seat tables. Okay. So I want you to do these bottom two on your own. Let me know if you have any questions and show me once you're all done.